Don't touch that dial now, we're just getting started.
Silent Hill's PT is the missing link to something deeper, that often feels like a buried piece of media that should have never been found. It's become somewhat a forbidden legend with a historic background surrounding everything that it brought. Something unusual happened in 2014. PT appeared on the PlayStation Store. It was just simply titled as a playable teaser. No marketing push, no fanfare, just a mysterious horror experience dropped out of nowhere. Players found themselves trapped in a looping hallway that was deeply unsettling. With every cycle, the familiar became more distorted. It was like a vivid dream, or rather a nightmare sequence playing on somebody else's subconscious fears, or maybe even a digital reality.
Snake, have you ever enjoyed killing someone?
What are you talking about?
I'm not sure. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between reality and a game.
Diminished sense of reality, huh?
But the dream was short-lived, because behind the scenes, Kojima's relationship with Konami, the publisher, was rapidly deteriorating. Corporate politics and creative clashes led to a very public breakup. And with Kojima's departure, Silent Hills was quietly buried.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
Konami not only cancelled the project, they removed PT from the PlayStation Store entirely. Maybe they knew something we didn't.
Dad was such a drag. Every day he'd eat the same kind of food, dress the same, sit in front of the same kind of games. Yeah, he was just that kind of guy. But then one day he goes and kills us all. He couldn't even be original about the way he did it. I'm not complaining. I was dying of boredom anyway.
But it made it unplayable to anyone who hadn't already downloaded it, until it would later resurface. It is a cursed piece of media, playable once again, and with it still contains all its cryptic subliminal messaging, a gateway into hell, or rather into Kojima's creative process, which often callbacks to its predecessors, living on a digital meme. Ultimately, as we know, PT would find its new identity within Death Stranding, with such clear indicators as Norman Reedus, the mysterious protagonist in PT, now Sam Porter Bridges.
They told me your name was Sam Porter. Well, you were Sam Bridges. My bridge to the future.
The haunting fetus is really what lives on as a bridge baby, a conduit between life and death, as PT, or even the Silent Hill series overall, seems to depict this connection. In PT, it appears as we're experiencing the vision of somebody else's traumas, with distorted visions that play out like a typical nightmare. Fractured shards of a collective thought, assembled with what would logically couldn't be possible in reality. The people in the photographs are clearly resembling someone else. A murder of a family by the father, a common occurrence as the radio tells us.
This brutal killing took place while the family was gathered at home on a Sunday afternoon. The day of the crime, the father went to the trunk of his car, retrieved the rifle, and shot his wife as she was cleaning up the kitchen after lunch. When his 10-year-old son came to investigate the commotion, the father shot him too. His 6-year-old daughter had the good sense to hide in the bathroom, but reports suggest he lured her out by telling her it was just a game. The girl was found shot once in the chest from point-blank range. The mother, who he shot in the stomach, was pregnant at the time.
The so-called economic troubles are causing fathers to lose their minds in domestic cases. To me, it's clear that Kojima took sources of inspiration from a highly flawed but a great entry within Silent Hill 4, The Room, that looks through the eyes of a protagonist with no clear indication of his backstory, but rather an experience through a memory of Walter Sullivan that plays out throughout the course of the story.
I'm going to see my mom. Stay out of my way. Who are you, anyway?
My name's Walter. Walter Sullivan. It's time to complete the 21 sacraments.
The character we know as Lisa is extended into Death Stranding's narrative. In PT, we understand that she was murdered by her husband along with her child, who she was carrying. Lisa becomes repurposed as Lisa Unger, who is carrying the child, as we know as Sam Porter Bridges, who at some point was a Bridge baby himself, used for experiments by Bridges. And this would also further extend as Sam Porter Bridges' partner Lucy, as we were led to believe in the first game, dies of suicide according to the reports, but as confirmed in Death Stranding 2, was murdered and had her child stolen from her by Bridges for experiments. I guess history just loves to repeat itself. And the same thing applies as well with the boss in Metal Gear Solid 3, with the philosophers that snatched her child away from her in the middle of battle.
A beautiful baby boy. But my child was snatched away from me by the philosophers.
The fetus represents something much larger in Kojima's epics. The birth, death, and renewal, all of these stories share the memes. But PT doesn't give you a straightforward narrative. It's pieced together through radio broadcasts and environmental hints. That's what made it so haunting. It forces you to imagine the unspeakable. The details are left vague to an extent, but they get darker the more you linger, sparking interpretation given on the context on display. We could assume that the fetus was extracted from Lisa given on what we've seen in the bathroom, whenever it's literally being extracted by the father or whenever it's a symbolic manifestation of trauma. It's left ambiguous. Kojima and his team never spell it out. Often Silent Hill thrives on what the player fills in. Hence what keeps these games open for discussion long after release.
You got fired, so you drowned your sorrows in booze. She had to get a part-time job working a grocery store cash register. Only reason she could earn a wage at all is the manager liked how she looked in a skirt. You remember, right? Exactly 10 months back.
It's been 11 long years since PT has left its imprint, often still haunting the audience with a presentation unlike any other. It ultimately couldn't be concluded the way we hoped, but it's clear that even for a teaser that has so many cross-references regarding many things both inside and outside the space of fiction, and of course non-fiction, regarding Hideo Kojima's departure. It was like Hideo Kojima was trying to merge both his personal life with his video games.
But guess what? I will be coming back, and I'm bringing my new toys with me.
Hello everyone. I'm back.
So all of you now already know most of the eerie profound connections between Metal Gear Solid and Death Stranding within PT, thanks to prominent content creators around this subject such as The Tomb Portable and Futura Sound Productions, who have extensively covered this topic. However, I'd like to give my thoughts on the matter after playing recently again on the PC, but before I dwell further into the game, I'd like to take a look back when PT was introduced to the audience and its clear connections to MGS5 and expanding further into the overall series. Both games roughly came out at the same time, particularly Ground Zeroes, all incorporating the Fox engine. In the PT concept movie, we see a decapitated head of Chico, spewing parasites out of his mouth. This was clearly a direct link to Ground Zeroes and perhaps even the Phantom Pain, and was in turn an event that already feels like a Patriot simulation project to create the perfect soldier, information acting as a parasite to the subject, of their perceptions of reality. Given all the inconsistencies and contradictions of Ground Zero, this is a game that, for example, Big Boss and Kaz's conversation about Paz doesn't match up to the events of its prior predecessor known as Peace Walker.
The rain was coming down just as hard the day we met Paz. I only want peace for my country. I can't believe we ever bought that cover story.
I knew Paz and the Professor. I knew who they really were all along.
Cuz...
I used them.
I suppose you were the one that brought them to Columbia in the first place, huh?
Guilty as charged.
And the tapes with one of the torches sounding like Kaz.
Give her the shot already! Hold her still! Give her the shot already!
It's long been speculated the events of Ground Zero's experience was different to what really happened, just as Solid Snake's mission was on the tanker compared to Raiden's experience, who simulated that mission, but as confirmed by Snake, it didn't accurately depict the events of what happened.
I've gone through VR training of the tanker mission before.
Yeah? Well, I doubt it accurately simulates the events of that mission.
Rather what the Patriots wanted Raiden to see or believe, that Solid Snake is a terrorist rather than a philanthropist, because this narrative suited the Patriots' agenda. They never wanted Solid Snake to be factored into their S3 plan.
Colonel, you were monitoring the codec calls. That man was the real Snake all along.
Maybe.
Maybe?
Don't let your guard down with him.
Why do you say that?
Because they were never a part of the simulation. They're an unknown factor.
When we take this into account, if we look at Ground Zero's been a form of mind control through a semi-conscious hypnagogic method, all to plant hypnotic suggestions of information to the subject to essentially program their brain to a constructed reality. Venom had completed all of Big Boss's missions on record. This would also include the incident at Camp Omega.
We've been busy over the last 9 years. His altered state of consciousness has helped us implant powerful suggestions through induced hypnagogia. He's experienced all your missions on record and shares all your knowledge and experience to make him believe that he's the one true Big Boss.
The reason why Kaz contradicts his previous statement of his traitorous act in Peace Walker is because it's been reinforced by the Patriots, or rather Ocelot's programming.
You'll have to join up with Miller. Build that private army of yours one more time. It's your only chance.
The early stages of the S3 to ultimately shape the public's perception, starting with individuals, they had to make Kaz look like the good guy, with Zero knowing in the future he would need his assassin Venom to eliminate Skullface and XOF, whilst working in tandem with Miller. Ocelot reinforces the Patriots' programming as he did in MGS2.
You did sell Olga. You're all nothing but pawns placed to create the perfect simulation.
Some, if not all, the tapes in the game, as some believe, are a personal manifesto created within Venom Snake's mind, of what he perceives characters would say. We know this to be the case with the past tapes because they are false, or the past, incidents with Ocelot and Kaz not even being real. Hence this idea, and if so, Ground Zero's tapes may just be the same. When we hear Kaz whilst Paz is being tortured doesn't make any sense whatsoever considering he was at the base. The placement of Kaz in this tape becomes further profound when you realise both English and Japanese voice actors were included. It almost seems too intentional. Like the Paz tapes, this is a mirror to Kaz that ultimately doesn't exist. Because is this in a fractured mind of a unreliable narrator? Yes. The PT concept movie feels like a nightmare, something experienced after Ground Zero's in the mind of Venom Snake and all the trauma that came with it. As I've explained in the latter, nightmares and dreams are often disjointed, as they unfold, often changing in environments, people and incidents, including subconscious thoughts tied to emotions.
What does that mean to him? Nothing. The human brain is capable of many illusions. Of pain, of the future.
The radios in PT is what stood out to me in connection to the Phantom Pain, which we often see many of in the game. It's like PT and the Phantom Pain are tied into an alternative reality, or maybe even a simulation, or maybe just even a nightmare. Oddly, in MGS5, the radios play out the same news broadcast in PT, not only by the Devil's House, but when the skulls arrive. What MGS5 considers those who don't exist, then therefore makes it difficult to determine what's real in a diminished sense of reality.
Shot to death in the same state last month, and in December last year.
Based on the events in the Phantom Pain, albeit they are played out differently, we know the radios hold an important element in MGS5 because they used to give the parasites a language to attach to. A haunting demonic voice is fitting in the context of the Devil's House. The subjects have become monsters, more specifically the parasites that live within them, taking control of their minds, as parasites often do, which can hijack a horse's behaviour to serve their own reproduction, which is a natural world parallel to mind control, themes that you often see in the Metal Gear series. The classic example is toxoplasma, a parasite that infects rodents and alters their behaviour, making them less fearful of predators like cats, which helps the parasite complete its life cycle. Shining lights, even in death, perfectly highlight this analogy of the parasite taking over somebody's rational thoughts. The parasite known as leucochloridium in snails is another parasite that manipulates movements and appearance to increase the predation by birds, as the Phantom Pain shows us.
I win. I'm no snail.
Symptomatic infected in the laboratory all wanted to get outside, even knowing there was napalm waiting for them out there. You said the parasites made them act that way, but parasites controlling humans. Is it possible?
Parasites altering the host's behavior is a common occurrence in the world of nature.
Just as the Patriot's information control is a informational parasite that spreads and sucks people's minds dry from one to another to the next, ultimately guiding people's decision making.
By controlling the codes, Cypher Zero intends to unify. Codes implanted into our heads, sucking our minds dry as it spreads from one host to the next. A parasite upon this earth, that is what Zero is.
The radio placement is a huge parallel into both worlds. It is in this hellish space the radio in PT randomly narrates a sequence of numbers, the very same we hear in the Phantom Pain before we arrive at Hell, or rather the Devil's House.
2048663. English called 911 found the father in his car listening to the radio. Several days before the murders, look behind you. I said, look behind you.
We already have seen the fourth wall break, alluding to Silent Hill with a broken bridge, and the fog, and all clear callbacks to that series. But the numbers in particular are very interesting because it almost seems like a glitch in a program that is malfunctioning.
In the end, they're no more than a program. All they can do is repeat the same pattern over and over again.
At some point into playing PT, after many loops, you'll notice that the simulation starts to distort, as the screen gives off a vibe that something is disrupted in the programming in the machine. Even the controls don't start to work when you move certain ways. It's almost like if it's just one big simulation. Honestly, it's impossible to tell what the real answer is, because it could simply just be a nightmare. We see this in MGS2 with the Patriot's AI, for example, if we take into account this is some form of AI manipulation. As we often see when the Patriot AI goes out of control after GW is unstable, there's a sequence of words rather than numbers, but they'd feel just as disjointed as they do in PT playing through the radio. However, I feel the same level of programming is tied to the subject. For example, Ocelot referring to 2 + 2 = 5 in a hypnotic trance. If you can be forced to accept a falsehood against all reason, your mind no longer belongs to you. That's the essence of doublethink, holding two contradictory beliefs and accepting both as true. Ocelot embodies this.
It's doublethink. In this year, 2 + 2 = 5. And I want you to do the same. Right.
He bends the truth and manipulates perception until enemies and allies alike can't tell the illusion and when it ends and when reality begins. This is something that we see with the protagonist Raiden in Arsenal Gear, when his reality starts to distort, and it almost seems like a video game filter appears saying game over as the programming is starting to take effect. We see something similar in PT, as different users experience different breakdowns of the game that makes it look like it's crashed, when in reality it's still operational. I think this is often showcased through plenty of Kojima games that really leave open certain pieces of media for interpretation. Call of Duty Black Ops had something similar, with the subject being under a form of MKUltra by the CIA, a list of numbers play on repeat, all with a deeper meaning behind them.
7, 21, 6, 4. 3.2536388888. The 204683 tape on PT can be even acquired in the Phantom Pain, ironically, and it plays an eerie track exactly to the same music that was from the intro of PT's demonstration. And within that demonstration, we see a Kojima Productions logo, then shortly after a clear reference to show how PT is clearly closely connected to the Phantom Pain, a V upside down, with tactical espionage operations that can be seen. We know PT is not directly related to Silent Hills. Hideo Kojima was doing something we've never seen before in gaming, as he had done with MGS1. Ultimately, something Konami wouldn't allow him to expand on, sadly, but PT and the Phantom Pain could have shared way more of a connection than we initially thought. But it's clear that most of this has been repurposed into Death Stranding, and Kojima's up-and-coming game known as OD. The two clearly seem like what PT was meant to be, but never was. The numbers have always been interpreted in many ways. To Kojima's birthday, an anagram in Japanese with words deciphered as "look at the bathtub," but Kojima often uses a polysemic language. Every line is a prism, splitting it into several meanings depending on where you stand. Kojima often brings unique features to his games, and Metal Gear Solid 1 is where it truly took off, like switching the controllers to fight Mantis. The community at the height of PT on the PS4 had to come together to figure out the ending. For example, PT allowed you to use the microphone to trigger the ending. Jareth in PT is what people initially referred to Lisa's child, which is a name you must whisper into your PlayStation microphone during the final puzzle. Doing this would correctly make the phone ring, which was the final step before Norman reads his reveal and he walks out of the town.
However, as some people reported, the game played out differently for some, not even needing to say the child's name into the microphone, which has called to an Easter egg to David Bowie's Goblin King from Labyrinth. Kojima often references the late David Bowie in many of his works. But the child is actually called Jareth, but so many people reported it didn't really matter what they said into the microphone. Ultimately, it would trigger the ending, but nearly 100% of the time saying Jack would work. The game was finicky, to say the least, but the final trigger was tied to hidden timers, where you stood and how long you stared at certain objects. The mic input could work as one possible trigger, but it wasn't strictly required. The transcript of Silent Hill's PT is really profound. It's pieced together by fans all over the world from sources in the game itself, which makes it all more strange. It feels very similar to Silent Hill 2's remake, when finding all the Polaroids with letters would spell out something that would flip Silent Hill's 2 perceived story on its head, aside from its other endings. That we'd been here for 2 decades in Silent Hill, and that James is trapped into a simulation, or maybe a dream, or in the spiritual world, limbo.
You're not here. Are you?
The PT transcript pieced together by the radio broadcast, the distorted lines or demonic voice, also includes the whispered voices, especially in certain hallway loops and environmental text like the bloody writing on the walls or messages revealed through puzzles, as well as the audio cues, some of which are reverse speech or in a foreign language, Swedish in particular. The transcript becomes more profound when you place it in the exact same context of the Metal Gear universe and how it closely resembles MGS5.
I walked till I stood 1 pace before Jack. I whispered his name, but the night wind stole his voice away. In the moment our hands overlap, we share in an instant of private darkness. His touch, cold as marble, cold and shivering all over, never moving a step, his hand in mine. I waited for it to pass, and through the midst of waning consciousness, I thought I heard a phone ring. You've been chosen. 204863 2048.
This also includes MGS2 and Raiden, or is also referred to as Jack. When we base what is spoken between Rose and Raiden, the demonic voice that plays out that is spoken in Swedish, an English translation reveals what is said, and it eerily points to the Patriots within its connection. But also some of the characters in the Metal Gear Solid series and their codec conversations.
So you remember. I thought your memory had been manipulated by them.
It was, but I have nightmares every day. Pieces of the past I can't put together.
Why didn't you tell me?
Told you what? That I'm a killer and always have been?
This brutal killing took place while the family was gathered at home on a Sunday afternoon.
Jack, you wouldn't even let me in your room.
There are certain things that I have to keep to myself.
Do you remember that time I forced my way into your room? It was the first time you ever raised your hand against me. I was so worried about you. It wasn't your violent nature that scared me.
Jack.
It was your room, your heart.
Stop it.
There wasn't anything in your room. Only a bed and a small desk. It looked like a prison cell. A lifeless room. Almost like your empty heart.
That's why I tried to keep you out.
I thought I was beginning to understand you. Until I saw that room. Sometimes you're so horribly cold.
The mother, who he shot in the stomach, was pregnant at the time.
Jack!
What?
I'm carrying. I'm pregnant.
Rose! It's like being in a nightmare you can't wake up from.
No!
What I hate more than anything else in the world is my own past. I didn't want you or anyone to know about it.
I'm
Jack the Ripper, a dirty reminder of a terrible mistake.
In regards to the Patriots, it says that they are here on our Earth, and they monitor and see all. Don't trust anyone. Don't trust the police. They already are controlled by them. That's the way it has been for 75 years now.
Politics, the military, the economy, they control it all. They even choose who becomes president. Putting it simply, the Patriots rule this country.
When you take a look at the dates into account and combined with the themes of Orwell's 1984, take 75 years away and it's the birthday of Zero himself, the very man pulling the strings to control the world.
I could do nothing but walk. And then I saw me walking in front of myself. But it wasn't really me. Watch out. The gap in the door. It's a separate reality. The only me is me. Are you sure the only you is you?
No one quite knows who or what is behind the talking back. Several speculations have gone around the community saying that it's Troy Baker to Robin Atkins Downs who plays Kaz. The understanding is the tally chart next to the bag is to symbolise the time loops experienced by the protagonist or Lisa awaiting her husband's return. But ultimately it's meta commentary. But I can't help but think in the context of MGS5, the tally represents the passage of time regarding Venom Snake's coma or the number of days he's played as Big Boss's Phantom. Ocelot's voice echoes through his nightmare, because in the passage the bag eerily describes MGS5's ending, as we know as the man who sold the world. The words ushered from the bag eerily mirror the Man Who Sold the World lyrics very closely in regards to Venom Snake playing the Phantom and being the proxy of Big Boss.
I walked. I could do nothing but walk. And then I saw me walking in front of myself. But it wasn't really me. Watch out. The gap in the door. It's a separate reality. The only me is me. Are you sure the only you is you?
In the murdered family's house, there are pills and alcohol everywhere. It's clear that deranged father and Lisa may have had habits to deal with their issues. It's unclear what the pills are, but maybe they're antidepressants or even antipsychotics. Maybe a combination of the both. It's unclear because, just like the deranged father who speaks of this monster he's becoming, is like Venom Snake who is becoming a demon, Big Boss. These pills show up everywhere in MGS5, but it's unclear what they're used for. Many speculate it's for his hallucinations, but just like PT, they're sprawled everywhere to symbolically represent the state of minds of said characters. This could also showcase the level of guilt the characters are feeling for their actions, with Venom feeling responsible for Paz's death.
It is no mystery now. I am just a phantom. A fragment of the mind you have lost.
Even one of the photos on the wall oddly seems familiar in the Phantom Pain. I'm sure you guys can see it yourself in the recesses of your mind. Yes, it looks like a tunnel as you make your way to the Devil's House. This also includes another photo that clearly looks like camouflage. So progressing into the story, you have to gouge out the eye of the picture of Lisa. It feels like a horrific callback to Big Boss losing his eye, interpreted in a dreamlike state that often plays out different than they do in reality. Once again, the nightmare-like sequence just keeps appearing in Kojima's games. It is clearly a clever fourth wall break to his other games, but almost feels like everything connected, giving these games more layers to their stories that fans can ultimately determine. When in loop at some point, the entire room turns red. The pictures have moving eyes that look around erratically, almost as if someone's experiencing an anxiety attack or a surge of adrenaline as the character moves quickly around the room. This instantly brought me back to the quarantine platform in Metal Gear Solid 5 when Snake kills his men. Whilst walking through the hallway, we see his transformation become that demon in a hellish scene.
God. Cypher sent us to hell. But we're going even deeper.
I know. I'm already a demon. Heaven's not my kind of place anyway.
Some other clear callbacks is when Lisa strangles the protagonist. It plays out very similar to when Quiet at the beginning tries to eliminate Venom. Strangely, you can actually hear a zipper become undone, which sounds familiar to when the Soviet soldier tries to abuse Quiet. And in the Shagor village in Afghanistan on a quiet evening, you can hear what appears to be the lamp swinging from side to side. Big Boss suffered from PTSD just like his son Solid Snake. Nightmares of their past would haunt them and never leave their side. Looking back on Peace Walker, Big Boss has always had flashbacks of the boss causing him to break down mentally. He couldn't let go of his sin. It consumed him to the very end, just like it did James Sunderland. And the quotations from both Kaz and Eva make more the sense in this context.
I had a pretty bad dream.
A dream?
This monster that I'd never seen before was coming at me with a knife. And I wasn't me, I was something else.
That doesn't surprise me. You're in a mild state of shock from all the pain and exhaustion you're going through.
Ah.
Maybe one day you'll learn to stop hiding yourself.
What do you mean?
I know how you feel, Snake. I'm a spy too. You don't realize it, but the fake you is eating away at the real you. The person you're pretending to be is becoming the person you are. And the real you is screaming out from somewhere deep inside. That's what you saw in your dream.
Maybe so.
But ultimately, all of it is being driven by vengeance, a large theme in the Phantom Pain that shows an endless cycle, a loop of repetition. Revenge is often sought but leads to more destruction. The pain and hatred the characters feel mirrors Lisa's anger, set out to extract revenge in an endless loop, constantly consumed by grief. It's clear, just like MGS5, Silent Hill P.T. will never give us the answers. It will remain a distant memory, haunting us without any true conclusion. But honestly, this is what makes both pieces of media so special and still talked about years on. So what is PT? Was it all just a nightmare inside of a random person based on events on their lives? Or somebody in a coma experiencing Patriot programming through an AI? Or maybe it was simple as the director breaking the fourth wall on the most profound ways we've ever seen. Ultimately, that's for you guys to decide. It's going to be interesting to see where Kojima takes his new horror game, OD. Probably the only complete version we'll get to see anything close to Silent Hill's PT. Leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below with all that being said, because I'd love to hear your guys' take and interpretation of PT's story. Hit the like and subscribe if you're new, and turn on the notifications for more content just like this. Anyway guys, until we meet again.